Hi, this is Yuri, aka Big Thoughts, and you're listening to Music Existence.
Welcome to another instance of Music Existence, where because of music, we exist. Right now, I have with me Jordi Meewezen, aka Big Thoughts, a rapper, singer songwriter, and producer from the Netherlands who debuted back in 2018 with the album Pleasure and Pain, following up in 2021 with Confessions, and now he's back with a new single, So Many Masks. He has a great story. We're going to talk about all of it. But without further ado, Yordi, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
It's awesome. So you and I are in a very similar age group, and I was wondering because it was an interesting transition period. We were like part of the last generation to transition from, cassettes to CDs. And when you were little, you actually found a cassette of Eminem, which got you started on hip hop. So tell me all about that.
Yeah, man. Actually, it was a really fun story. I was just at home and I was like in my room. I was doing stuff, and like my brother walked in and he said like, "Yo, I have this cassette with like Eminem, D12, Tupac, and like I was like, "What is it?" And he said, "Well, it's hip hop. You just have to listen to it." And then I just said, "Okay, man, I'll do." And then like I popped in the cassette and turned it on, and I mean, it was like magic to me, man. It was like I didn't even know hip hop existed until that moment. I mean, I knew it, but like I didn't really listen to it that much. But when he like gave that to me, like a whole new world opened up.
That's amazing. I'm sure it has. And like, how did that sort of translate to your early efforts, tinkering with recording software and really finding your voice?
Well, that actually pretty it started pretty rough at first because actually my first recordings were just at the school where I was going at the time. I was going to special education, and at that school we have like normal school lessons bundled with therapy and all that kind of stuff. And during lunch breaks I had this guy, and we were friends, and like we would record like just simple freestyles on a simple microphone that you would plug in on the back of your computer with like the pink thing, the like pink cable at the end. And like
Right.
we just plugged that in. We launched Audacity. I don't know if you know that software. And then we just would start like recording. And if that mic wasn't present, we simply would use the the headphone like to like record stuff. And that was really fun to do.
That's really awesome, man. And it's great how like so that exposure um between like your schooling and just finding that avenue to sort of let loose, like that must have been like pretty cathartic for you, especially being in the situation you're in. I mean, you know, the unique thing about you and with myself, and one of the reasons that we connect on is we actually both have cerebral palsy. And I was wondering, when it came to that, um, what was it like kind of being integrated in special education and sort of making connections and developing common interests? Did people take to you immediately, or were they sort of dismissive at first, but then they would come around to you and really recognize your talents?
Well, I would say it was kind of mixed. I had people that thought that there was something there more than what I showed at the time. But there were also people that indeed were very dismissive and didn't think that I would amount to much, honestly. And I mean, I already was insecure. Maybe we talk about that later, but that was also due to the way that I was raised. But eventually, some people came around, but most of the stuff I had to do on my own. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's cool that regardless of the rough edges that you experienced, that didn't I mean, at least it seems like it didn't deter you from pursuing your passions. And when it came to um the your first EP, Pleasure and Pain, I mean, what would you say was like running through your mind at the time in terms of what emotions and what kind of lyrics and thoughts you really wanted to express?
Well, actually, I need to tell you a bit here because like my first album was actually Music Saved Me. That was back in like 2016, but I removed that from the streaming services as I didn't think it was that good, so I removed it. And secondly, I didn't have the rights anymore to keep it up. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But in regards of pleasure and pain, that was more like it was kind of like a stepping stone to me. It was kind of better than Music Saved Me, and there are definitely some good songs on them on that EP. But I don't know. I feel like I was still developing, and I feel like especially my flow on a lot of these tracks aren't that polished really. But I do think that it shows a lot of the person that I am. And I think confession actually builds upon that.
That's really cool. And and music did indeed save you because you didn't, while listening to the music that you enjoyed, it's not like the musicians stopped halfway and then like judged you for listening to them and saying, that kind of guy is listening to us? No way. We gotta stop playing.
No, but I feel like especially like Eminem I listened to the most at the time, and I feel like especially with like the Eminem show because that's what he released at the time, and after that Encore, and it was so like revealing to me because I was like, whoa, he's actually channeling all these emotions, and he's like telling a story through music, and you don't have to hold anything in. You can just let loose and be yourself, and that was really intriguing to me, and I really wanted to build upon that. Actually, if I'm honest, if I don't know, have you heard like the first track of the Pleasure at Pain EP, like Because I Can?
So remind me, like what what did you like feel like while you were like creating that?
Well, the reason I touched on that song specifically is because you can definitely hear the Eminem influence on that song. That's why I said that.
Oh, man. See, like, and like when I think of you, like your voice is like incredibly distinct, especially like when I came across you originally and I saw your skit saying like disabled people shouldn't make music.
Yeah, yeah.
That like, but then I heard more of you speaking and I was like, this guy has a great voice. He can definitely portray like anime characters. You have such a big voice even then, even back then.
like, I wanted to ask, what makes it so distinct to you?
I don't know. Maybe it's just being from another country and just the fact that, just focusing on the nuances, you know, it's a bias. Like I'm very like kind of I have this like kind of fixation towards voices and how they can sort of emote and express themselves. And I can say
Oh, I
like,
see.
wow, you know, that's like a, you know, that's a good voice, you know?
Oh, I see, I see. Thank you, thank you. That's really awesome to me because you're saying the exact opposite what a lot of people used to say.
Oh shit. Like what kind of things did they say when they heard your voice?
Well, a lot of people didn't like it at first, actually, when I was rapping, and honestly, like especially like the higher pitched voice, it's on some material still. When you listen to it, I didn't like it either, but I think at the time I just used that type of voice to just. I think I thought that it would like get the emotions across better, I think. But I think like especially because I can, that really also shows the more like calmer voice and the more deeper voice that I have. And the characters that I portray in that song, those have very distinct voices. But that was on purpose, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting if you think about it that way because like um when it comes to cerebral palsy in general, we're always concerned with like energy exertion, spasticity, everything in between. And yet you come out with like a delivery that's like it takes your circumstances and really puts them through a means of like accessibility. I went into like your music, and when I heard you rap, I was like, shit, like I can do this too. Like this gives me inspiration. This is inspirational to me. I know it's cliche to say.
No, no, no. But that's exactly that's like half of the point that I started doing this. One half was like I wanted to show like a lot of people have bias towards people with disability. I don't know how it's in America for you, but especially in Holland here, people actually think you're nuts when you're in a wheelchair or like you're some lunatic or something. And I wanted to like give people something to look at and be like, oh shit, we're wrong. And the other half is if people with disabilities such as yourself see this, I want them to be like, whoa, so we can do this too. And that's exactly what you're saying right now. So that actually puts a smile on my face.
And that's really cool. And like what you're saying is like it really speaks to me because over here the level of um the level of worseness is about on par, you know, with the US, you know, like immediately when you portray yourself in a certain way, even if it's enthusiastic, like regardless of how confident you may be, it's like people won't allow themselves to really get to know you beyond what they see. They don't accept you with the wheelchair, with the disability included. They try to do all these like mental gymnastics in their head to accept some parts of you, but not all of you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I really feel that one. Do you have like what we have here? And I think that's I don't know why people do it, but say like you're out and about with someone, right? And you're with someone together, and then they don't ask a question to you directly. They talk to the person you're with as if you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, 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 because they're afraid to acknowledge you. Like they're like, "Oh, can he do this or can he
Yeah.
do that?" Yeah, it's incredibly common, man, especially here. Like I read like tons and tons and tons of anecdotes, especially those
Oh.
who are newly injured through like a spinal cord injury, like they've been talking about, you know, kind of these notes of becoming newly invisible, and you know where we fit in. We were born this way, so we struggle kind of
Oh,
for that visibility, even especially when we're out like in a group of people, and people tend not to focus on us, but rather the person who they feel kind of most comfortable associating with.
yeah, yeah. That just is so weird to me. But as I said, it's probably also due to the way that I was raised and that I didn't dare to speak openly or go about my business myself. Maybe that has to do with it as well. But it was always so strange. Like just picture me sitting in a restaurant and I picked what I want to order and like the waiter comes over and they don't say, "What do you want to have?" No, they say like, "What does he want to have?"
Oh shit. Yep, yep. Same here, man. Same here, man. It's I mean not like not while ordering they do address me directly, but there's certain other like situations where I'm out and
Uh,
about. But so like in your upbringing there was still a lot of that kind of dismissal, and like just like more like discouragement than encouragement when it came to
yeah.
pursuing things.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. It was also like my family as a whole really thought that I was mentally disabled, and because they told me that sometimes, I would start to believe it. And what happens is you start to become very timid. You don't know what you have to do with all these emotions that are like boiling inside of you, and you start to feel like a freak. You really start to believe like you're not capable of anything. And the other issue that I had was we also had like sometimes we had like violence in the home or like my parents would scream at me and stuff. So that would make me more insecure as well. So yeah, that probably is part of it, but I feel like it was rough at first. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you I feel like when you're a kid, when you're not immediately um used to being in that dismissive environment, you're not very much aware of it. Like in my case, I didn't really care that I was in a wheelchair. I didn't really fixate or hyperfixate on the fact that I was in a wheelchair until more and more people pointed that out and pointed out
Oh,
how uncomfortable it made them or how inferior it seemed to be to them, you know,
did it?
something
Did
that
they?
made me inherently wrong or inherently taboo or bad.
No, did they actually do that? That they actually would point out with you present that they felt uncomfortable?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sucks. It really gets to you.
No, but that is like so wrong, and I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. Um, and I want to reiterate, I think it wasn't as bad at first for me, like when I was a child. But when I got older, I started to notice that things were just different and things weren't good, I think. But as a child, you don't really notice because you think it's normal until you start to discover that it isn't.
Yeah. I mean, when it came to one of your tracks, Matrix, I mean, that's what
Oh.
really kept me listening, man. Like, what are your thoughts on that song? What are your big
Oh.
thoughts on that song?
Well, that song was actually I was getting so fed up with the way that with the way that society started to evolve because even back then because you got to remember this EP was in 2018 and I started to like notice people being on their phones more and more and like that people really started to not care as much about each other and their environment that they were in. And like it felt like the social norms were just declining and declining and declining. And so I thought I need to make a song about this. And that's basically how Matrix was born.
Yeah. And it's so profound. It's like So it kind of gives you this picture like it's not just me. Like this is something that's definitely happening around me that more people can feel. Like they're more consumed and isolated by a technology that's ironically supposed to bring you closer together.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" So that's basically yeah how that song came to be, and it's also from my personal experience. I don't know how this is for you, but here in Holland, like someone's birthday is a pretty big deal, and usually a lot of people turn up. And what is weird, because what you have to remember is when we had a birthday, I would have to sit at this fixated spot because there was no room to maneuver. So I would just put my wheelchair somewhere, and that was it. And then the only thing that people would occasionally do is greet you, and they say like, "How are you?" But you know, with the tone of their voice, you just know that it's not sincere. They don't really care, or they don't know how to position themselves like towards you or how to act, and then the rest of it, you're just sitting there staring at a wall because nobody interacts with you.
Yeah, that's usually happened when it came to not just, you know, adults like putting on like a performative means of communicating with someone at a party, but with friendships, with romantic relationships, they lean into you, they take interest in you, and then when they kind of get used to you, then they pull away. And meanwhile, you're
Wow,
being consistent, you're putting in all the effort, and
mm.
then they're like, they take that for granted and they start tuning you out, you know?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, how was that for you? Because for me, like I said, it was just like a question, like, how are you and how are things with this and that? And then basically for me, the conversation would stop. But you say that they first lead into you. So how was a conversation like that for you? As like, for example, at a birthday party or at a community event or an event with friends around? How was that for you?
Um, Maybe it's a little bit more occasional like acknowledgement of me. And again, when you were talking about how when you're with another person or maybe a group of people in this instance, the eyes would definitely like not graze me as much as the other people around me.
Man, oh no, that's just not good. But so like, have you experienced something similar to this? Like sometimes I would have a conversation with someone like for 10 to 15 minutes, but then as soon as other people start to come in that they know and they have no disability, sometimes they're talking all with each other, and you're just sitting there like 10 to 20 feet away, and you're like, wait, am I not at this party anymore? Hello.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, when it comes to, and you bring up a good point, when it comes to like one to one, they're at least acknowledging you, they're at least entertained. But then when the
Yeah.
real, when the real people, when the normal people, when the non disabled people show up, then the party's started. And then whatever novelty they had with you, it's just thrown out the window because, okay, it's time to focus on my other friends. Fuck you a little bit. Just go
Yeah,
off to your corner.
yeah, exactly. And you start to feel like some sort of animal or something.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man. But then how does that kind of transition into the larger body of your full length album, Confession?
Well, confession, I was I was really at a bad place at the time, especially when I started writing it. I was at a really I was at a bad place. I was in a bad place, should I say? And that's basically, I don't know. Have you heard the first track of that album, like Confession? That's more like a foreshadowing as to what's to come on that album. And what I wanted to do with that album, I wanted to bring people on a journey and take them with me as I show them these chains and like almost this golden cage that I was raised in and I was living in at the moment. And I wanted to bring them with me on the journey as to um, how I got into it, but also how I started to come out at the end of the album.
Yeah. So it's a very kind of, it speaks to that level of vulnerability. It's like when the track that kind of stuck out to me was Little Boy, and it goes back to, you know,
Uh,
our discussion with growing up with cerebral palsy and all of that.
mm,
You know, you grow up used accustomed to like a certain kind of routine when you're
mm,
younger, but then as you grow older, like you said, your feelings become more nuanced and complicated to the extent that, you know, you're becoming a more emotionally and intellectually
mm.
apt person, that like so many people just refuse to understand that. They don't want to see you in that way.
No, but I guess that it's also like I said that goes all the way back to like I think how my family sees me as this disabled child that would need nourishing for the rest of their lives, and he doesn't need to do anything. The only thing that he needs to do is smile, eat, watch TV, and that's all he has to do. And I just had enough of that. And if I'm honest, that track was kind of a it became kind of a diss track towards my parents for in that specific matter.
This is a
Especially,
distract toward my family, you know. But
yeah,
it's interesting because, you know, like, it's not, they don't gauge your life based on how successful you become. It's like how effectively you're taken care of by others.
yeah, but what I never understood, and I think something that I probably will never understand, I don't understand why you can't give someone with disability the same chances as someone that's just born normal with no disability. Because why would it be different in the first place? Why can't you say like you can do everything until proven differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's and like, think about it. Like, aside from your mobility limitations, you're just a guy sitting in a chair.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I never understood how just being a guy sitting in a chair would lead to such societal indifference and, you know, ousting from, you know, or, you know, any of that like social exclusion. Like, I never understood that. Like, if you can walk, fine, you can stand up. Everyone has this mental image of being mirrored, you know, of someone in front of them. But then when it comes to, you know, someone just sitting in a wheelchair, all of a sudden, it's not inspirational to them. They say it's inspirational, but then secretly, deep down, they feel awkward and like kind of uncomfortable for acknowledging us. But like I said, we're just two people just sitting around, you know, in chairs. And to add further to that contention, sometimes you meet someone else in a wheelchair and then they view you with the same dismissal, because it's like if they're in a bad sort of state of mind, then they'll say, well, I'm just looking at myself in the mirror and I see all my problems reflected on this guy. So, you know, so it's bullshit. It's a bubble instead of a community. So I'm so glad that we reached out and we were able to connect like this, man.
No, no, I'm glad that you reached out, and to me, it's awesome. You know, I saw your comment, and I was like, "Whoa, is this real?" And then, and then I was like, "Whoa, this
It's
is
the
awesome." I never,
Matrix, man. It's the Matrix.
yeah, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This cannot be real. So I started to click on your profile and I was like, whoa, this is real, dude.
Oh God. They see, I mean, the CP isn't genetic, but we're cut from the same cloth. We're in two different worlds apart, and it's like it's amazing, man. So, like going into um, your latest track, so many masks. It's like wow, like what a leap, you know. You've become so much more succinct in your presentation. Not to say that the more vulnerable kind of, I don't know, stream of conscious kind of thing was bad. It's just like we discussed off screen, a snapshot for the time, and now you're really proving yourself with so many masks. So, how did that track come around?
Well, that track is basically I mean it's not the same as before, but I'm going through like a rough time mentally, especially,
Yeah.
and when I'm going through a bad time mentally, I start to like cut people off, and I just want to be alone, and I start to notice all these nuanced things, like when you are dependent on caretakers and stuff. Like it's a routine to just ask how you are and how your day is. And I was like, I'm just so sick of that because I mean, I just don't feel so often. I just don't feel acknowledged, but that's because of the way that the care system is here in Holland. It's like money gets cut and more money gets cut, and they just have to do everything so quickly, and you start to become a number instead of a person. And I also, it's not just in the care home that I live in alone. It's also like when I'm out and about, when I'm just not doing too well. I just want to be alone, and I just get annoyed at the smallest things. So that was basically how So Many Masks was born, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about caregivers in the system, um, especially here, they're very underpaid and they don't care about forming a bond with
Yeah.
the person that they're they're taking care of because being a caregiver, um they take the intimacy out of caregiving, so it's very one-sided. You're dependent on them, and then they bear all that emotional burden of having to, like, oh, I got to be responsible for this guy, where ideally, if you meet like a beautiful woman as a caregiver, like you're just two people interacting with each other and bonding with each other to eventually you fall in love. And like I always say, like, why is that so rare? Why can't it just be a relationship between two people? Why does it have to be I'm up here and you're down here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's not just in Holland. I think it's in the care system throughout the whole world. I think when you are giving care to someone, it's not just like helping somebody out of bed or putting their clothes on or helping them go to the toilet or that kind of stuff. I think it's also about what's going on in here because it's like that's also, I think, a huge part of caregiving. And I don't mean in the sense of when you have like severe mental problems, but I mean just talking to somebody and like genuinely being concerned with them and asking them how they're doing and like forming a bond, as you say, that helps so much also in ways that they probably don't realize because the care also gets easier and they start to like, you start to interact with each other at a more deeper level. And I think that is slowly starting to disappear. And that's really sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, and I watch other instances where people have had success with their caregivers. They're able to um, to throw away that disconnect with, you know, the caregiver role and the patient role, and they're able to just meet each other equally as two people. And like yeah, like I don't understand why that's such a rare occurrence. Why can't two people like look at each other, really communicate, and like just see each other as just two people getting to know each other? And you know, and it's like when I think about it, it's like there's there's always this sort of etiquette that they're destined to follow so much that, and it goes with a lot of people, they're afraid to let their guard down around us. They're afraid to see us on that equal footing, you know? So, you know, it's really unfortunate, you know, but in the rare moments that it happens, like it should happen. There should be more instances of that so people can be inspired and say, I can meet someone, I can bond with someone.
Yeah, I don't know where this distant demeanor comes from most of the time. I think it's because of rules and whatnot, and I think it's because I think a lot of companies or initiatives that house people that have disabilities. I think that they are afraid that if caregivers bond too much, that things like love could happen or something like that, or that it becomes too intimate. But I feel like there's so much in between that you just throw away uh, by just not showing anything of yourself.
Yeah. And it happens on both ends, you know, because that caregiver is bound by rules. They don't show enough of themselves. And at the same time, you become afraid. You become afraid that you're wheeling on eggshells, hence being in a wheelchair. And it's just, it's unfortunate, man. But like, you know, we're just people. We're just like going through life, and you know, this goes for anyone out there. Like, don't be afraid to ask us questions directly related to our disability. Don't be afraid to get to know us. Don't be afraid to have romantic prospects about us. We're just people sitting in chairs, you know? That's all there is.
Yeah, there isn't too much difference other than us being in chairs. And of course, like let me just say that up front, there are people that really have mental disabilities that are in chairs and stuff. But you'll notice that soon enough. When you ask a question and that person is unable to respond, then of course it's okay to ask the person that they're with what's going on or whatever. But even then, even if people have severe disabilities and they cannot communicate that well, you can still show affection by, I don't know, waving at them or smiling, because you might think they don't know anything, but they do. They do feel the way that you interact with them.
Yeah, and it also goes to a similar effect, like, you know, when the mobility um when their mobility challenges are so much more pronounced, you know, they're assumed to be mentally incompetent when, you know, deep down it's just their mobility that's affected. They're like, they have so much shit on their mind that they want to get out, but because of their mobility challenges, it like inhibits them from communicating effectively. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, because those who are deemed to a lot of people who are deemed to be cognitively deficient, I think, actually feel the brunt of their mobility struggles to the effect that they become anxious and depressed and afraid
Mhm.
to grasp the concepts of learning. afraid to know their capabilities, afraid to really realize their potential.
Yeah, yeah, because that's exactly what I'm saying. Even if there are like cognitive differences, and you can clearly like see and feel that they are like not capable of operating at the same level as you and I, as any regular human being, you can still respect them for the person that they are. And it's not like if they are unable to communicate themselves or if they have other problems, it's not like you can just dismiss them and throw them away. You have to find a way to communicate with them.
Yeah, and it's also unfair that that threshold is like that threshold is it keeps raising, you meet someone who has profound difficulties, and then when they meet people like us, they carry those same biases toward us unfairly, but again, they just have to allow themselves to really kind of see us on the same level, meet us on the same page, so to speak, and really get to know us, as we want to know them. This is a two-person process. This is teamwork, and we believe in that. Like when it comes to people helping me out, getting from point A to point B, I want to make the workload, easy on them. You know, Depending on what I can do, I want to be able to, if I'm doing a transfer with someone, to shuffle more, to make sure that my legs are coordinated to do a dance, and at the same time, do a mutual social dance to
Yeah,
create a rhythm so that you're like, you can get this down,
yeah, exactly. I mean, like care is sometimes difficult, or it is like it takes long to help someone, or something that you need help with takes longer. The easier you make it on the both of you, the more easy things will go. And I feel like you pointed out yourself, it's like especially the social aspect is really important in that sense, because if you get to know each other more, and you like can joke in between helping us, then it's like it's much more relaxing, and it's much easier on yourself as well. Because if somebody would like ask like, can you help me with this, and you have no personal bonding with that person, I can understand you start to sigh and think like, oh, him again, he needs help again.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. But, when it comes to that level of teamwork, it really blossoms. It really heightens that understanding. It creates a dialogue where people become less dismissive and more curious. I encourage people, and you do too, to just be curious, be open minded, like really, like talk to us. Just, I mean, I know there's a height difference because we're sitting down, but like I said, it's important to just level with us and understand that that bond is and should be a two-person process, and that we value teamwork just as much as the caregiver, the friend, or the romantic partner does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's basically yeah what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's just awesome. So, as far as like so many masks, um, do you feel that it stands out on its own, or do you plan to fit it into a larger body of work that you're working on right now?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm gonna give you a scoop here, but people that have already like
Exclusive.
yeah, I'm gonna give you the well, it's not technically exclusive anymore, because if you watch my Instagram feed, you probably already guessed that something was going on. But this is work that is appearing on my next album. So
That's really good. And so many masks just fits into one aspect of that concept. And it's not just, you're being nice, you're being patient. That's, you're being untruthful, you're hiding your emotions. It's also, like you said, you're also masking burnout, depletion, just like a
Yep.
general, just like I don't give a fuck kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of the song has to like bring across. So Many Masks is a song where you hear like the burnout, and you hear what I actually want to say as opposed to what I say to that person that I'm communicating with. Because I can mask my emotions very well, and I can also just be the person that you want me to be for that interaction.
Yeah, we can be like chameleons, and then when the mask comes off, it's not that we secretly, even amongst our friends, it's not that we secretly hate them. It's just like, god damn, because emotionally, like our souls are like tired. Essentially, we're too tired to be depressed.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think depression is part of it, but because I think if personally, if I would be in a better mind state, it wouldn't bother me as much. But then the other side of the coin is usually when I'm depressed or in a bad place, I make the best music.
That's good. I mean, whatever avenues you can channel when it comes to me, writing music and you writing music in the same way. I mean, it's I mean, when it comes to your craft, did you sort of approach singing and rapping simultaneously, or did you rap at first and then eventually come around to singing?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I'm going to answer that in a bit, but I was curious about one thing that you said earlier because you said that so many masks felt very different to you with how I approached music before, like with the Pleasure and Pain EP. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that a bit more? Like what? Because you said it sounded very different and the approach seemed different. I'm curious as to what makes it different for you and what makes it more professional. I don't know any different word right now, or like, can you elaborate on that?
Well, when the choruses in particular were big, they were like very kind of look at me, this is the chorus kind of thing. But especially nowadays, when you get to really owning it and really it's just like you said with my vocals, kind of the similar assessment. Like maybe this is a little too prominent in the mix, but now everything flows, everything blends simultaneously. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. Yep. I think I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Because for me, the chorus was always this big thing that needs to stick inside your brain. And I was like, if I just make it louder.
Jesus Christ.
No. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But I didn't know. I didn't know as much at the time in terms of mixing and recording and basically how everything clicks together. But then to like let that be a kind of a bridge to your next question. Like I first started to rap. That was what I did at first. And actually, I was at day activity one day, and there was this guy, there was this studio, and he was working on some music. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And then I started to show him some of my tracks, and he was like, oh, that's good. You should actually keep doing that because you're like channeling your emotions into something that you can share with the world if you want, or just to like process everything that happens. So definitely keep doing that. And then it's not on Spotify anymore, but on Music Save Me, there's this song where I talk about somebody that passed away because like her father actually he wasn't doing well and he kind of like he murdered the whole family and she was living with me at the time, and this girl, she was disabled, but I had this very special bond with her. For people it was difficult to communicate with her, but for me it was very easy because she was like her age was like I think 22 or 23, maybe a bit older, but like cognitively she was just a child. So, but to me, it made it so fun to try to find out what she would mean, and then when I found it and I was able to comfort her and just like be two people communicating with each other, that was just so revealing to me. And I was like, see, we're all human beings. And then when that all fell away and I heard the news, that was the first time where I started to sing.
That that is so profound, and it goes back to what you say about closing the disconnect. Um, whether someone is cognitively at a different level than you are, whether someone is in a different position of career than you are, it's just two people wanting to get to know each other mutually. And that is just incredibly powerful, that not only um, your friend inspiring you to sing, to essentially pursue music to a larger degree, but also your friend being moved by your your art and encouraging you to keep going. You not only gave me pointers, but you told me that you enjoyed the vibe. You gave me a very well rounded assessment of my music. And that's what I really appreciate. It's not just, this is too bad, this is too loud, this is too fuck you, kind of bye, see ya. You know, that's like, you gave me a very well rounded feedback, and I appreciate and that. And it's like,
You're welcome.
there's got to be more of that.
Yeah, well, when it comes to when it comes to I want to finish that real quick. That the song that I made, I basically like in that song, I just said that I would miss her, and the song was about her and that the way that she died. I really was, yeah, I was traumatized by that because I was like, why does this happen, and how can someone that has children, how can that person do that to his whole family? So that was basically, and then to channel that into singing and having my friend also compose and mix the song, that was crazy to me when I heard the potential. And at the same time it was a good song, I feel like, to remember her by. And I mean, I am honored that even though it was a bad experience for me, that whole thing, it did inspire me to keep going. And like, I mean, I think I try to be more compassionate to people if I can, because you never know when it's the last time when you see someone. So I think that is what that taught me. And then to your question, what you said about feedback, I always, when I meet a fellow musician, I try not to talking language of like that's too bad or that's too loud. I usually try to give like a broad sense of feedback, because the music, I don't help the musician by saying what is good and what is bad. I think it's better if I just give pointers, like you said, about what I think, and then when the artist or the producer, whatever that person does, when they ask me more specific things, then I can zoom into it. But there's never a reason to be negative towards any musician. And also, it doesn't help to overcomplicate stuff, because you don't know what their skill level is the first time you meet them.
Yeah. And you kind of, you express that really well. And also, it's like, when it comes to your ability to not only communicate but collaborate. I mean, I saw your guest starring on the Android 17 track. I mean, that's got to be cool. I mean, to for that to that project to include one of your verses.
Yeah, well, actually, about that, that's actually a song I never gave permission to. As in, I never gave permission to let those vocals be on that, because the vocals that you hear are actually on the album of that artist. Sorry, I forgot the name off the top of my head, but the original recording and the way that I recorded this is on a song called "Take the Time." And there, it's all in time and it's all in sync. And then on the Android 17 track, it's basically a bit more of a mess.
Oh man, so basically it's just dropped in, you know?
Yeah, it was recorded on a total different instrumental. It was like at a total different pace. It was something totally different. If you have the time, maybe go back and listen to it. But the original intention is on that other song.
Yeah, I mean, I can say the same for a lot of the artists, like, but somehow, somehow it's, I mean, it's, I mean, and again, like, it's a similar thing. I don't think of it as inherently bad. I think of it as more like an avant-garde avant-garde like approach, but it's always interesting to hear that kind of behind the scenes, like, oh, you were on a compilation, or oh, you were a feature on some track. Oh, how was that for you? And
Yeah.
usually you'll find like, oh, we worked very well together. He was very receptive to my ideas and all that. Or you feel like, oh, that compilation that I was on, they released that without without my consent, or like I was
Yeah.
never given feedback.
No, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I just was being honest. I was like, I just found out about that song 2 days ago.
Oh man, it's just funny, man, that you learn about that. But it just goes to show, like, I wanted to kind of broaden that discussion of collaborations, and you know in general, how has collaborating with other artists in your style been for you? Is it is Do you feel like very close? Do you feel like you can develop a sound, a kind of a synchronicity together? Or are you like guys more or less on the same page?
Uh, in terms of this collaboration, as in the original track, the way it was intended, we were on the same page, yes, and I really liked the vibe that he was going for, and there wasn't too much communication. Actually, I wrote the verse, I like recorded the vocals, and I just asked him if he liked it, and he said yes, and that was basically it. It wasn't extensive communication where we would go back and forth, and there would be a lot of shaping on both of our verses, or I believe that there are 3 or 4 people on that track even. We weren't in much communication with each other, so but I feel like that track, the original track, came out pretty well. And nowadays, I don't really collaborate as much because I don't know. I haven't really found people that are are basically trying to get across the same type of sound or the same type of message that I'm going for. Of course, there are people that I would love to collaborate with, but they're much bigger artists than me, so I'm not going to ask them to feature me on the track. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. But at the same time, your tenacity, your resilience, your ability to be inspirational. See, I'm doing like all the cliches. Like, that's what enables the big thoughts to continue to be expressed, throughout not only, music, but, throughout your whole world, getting people to not only acknowledge you, but understand you, respect you, accept you as you are. Just, you know everything about you included. They don't feel they have to look past anything. They don't have to look beyond your disability, to like focus on things they consider more desirable. I bet you have met, even though it's to a small degree, much like me, you've met people who just enjoy you, appreciate you, just all around.
Yeah, I think Indeed, like you said, the people that I met that fully embrace you and like fully accept you the way that you are, and of course it's a mutual thing. I think the group of those people is very small, but then again, the people that do, I mean, you cherish them, and you will basically just love them forever because you know they will never switch up on you or be different because they're just them, the same as when you met them the first time.
Right. That's what needs to be said. And considering your your trajectory and everything thus far that you've put out, what have you learned about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person?
I think I think what I've learned the most throughout this entire journey, I think the most important thing that I can think of right now is it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable to a point where it's like it starts to get a little uncomfortable for people because you're so point blank about it. But then the other side of the coin is if you show people it's all right to do that, maybe people start to be more open towards each other. So I think the thing that I've learned the most is it's okay to just be you, regardless of what people think.
That's awesome, man. And last question, anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Well, the only thing that I that I would like to say is be on the lookout on my Instagram profile because well, the ball just got rolling. So in a few weeks the new album drops, and before that a few more surprises drop. So keep your eyes on that.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having this interview. This has been amazing for us to not only meet each other, but create this dialogue. And hopefully, a lot of listeners who would tune into it would really gel with what we're saying.
Yeah, I really hope that when people see this interview, if you have someone in your life that is disabled in any type of way, or just in general a person that goes through stuff, just be there for them. Like just talk with each other, and you'll see that you have more in common than you actually at first thought.
This has been pleasant, Jordi. Very pleasant.
Yes,
I'm so grateful for this, my boy.
you're welcome. You're very much welcome.
God
Yeah,
damn.
I am trying to make a prayer side, but it's not working, kinda.
Oh, man. Damn hypermobile fingers. I have that same shit too with my finger.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Well, that's just the thing you gotta live with, I suppose.
Yeah, but man, this has been amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jordi. Can you say it in Dutch?
Hey, dankjewel dat ik deze interview mocht doen. Dankjewel.
I'm thankful. I'm grateful. It's an honor, man.
No problem, no problem. Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
All right, all right. I'll talk to you later. Take care.
All right. You too, man.